up or help with none of.
What is up, Detroit Scope family? Buckle up, because today's video is an absolute roller coaster. We're talking injuries piling up like laundry on a bachelor's bedroom floor, timelines that'll make you nervous, and some practice takeaways that are honestly going to blow your mind. So yes, you saw the title. The Detroit Lions just got hit with a wave of really good news and some genuinely concerning bad news. But here's the deal. We're doing this the right way. We're starting with the good stuff first because Detroit Scope is a positive channel. We're beat writers with a heartbeat. And frankly, you've been drowning in bad injury news all camp long. So let's flip the script and start with the wins before we get into the stuff that might make you spill your coffee. Let's talk about a man named Devin White. Now here's the funny thing about Devin White. And it's a story that tells you everything about how weird player evaluation can be in this league. There are certain players that the analytics community, specifically pro football focus, absolutely loves. And then there are players that PFF just cannot stand, no matter what they do on the field. Devin White falls firmly into that second category. Even back when White was a bona fide all-pro, tearing through opposing offenses with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers around the COVID era, PFF's grading system never fully bought in. And ever since then, it's been a bumpy ride for the 7-year veteran. The Buccaneers didn't offer him an extension. The Philadelphia Eagles signed him and then released him before he ever played a single snap in their uniform. He bounced to the Houston Texans for a lone starting stint. Last season, playing for the Las Vegas Raiders, White actually finished third in the entire NFL in total tackles, racking up 174 stops. But even then, something still looked a little off. The explosiveness, the chaos, the headache factor that made him a nightmare for opposing offensive coordinators. It just wasn't fully there. Well, according to Dan Campbell, that guy is back. And Campbell doesn't hand out praise like Halloween candy. So when he talks, Lions fans should listen. Here's the quote, word for word, straight from Campbell's press conference. He looks like a different guy than what we saw in Vegas last year on tape. He's moving well. He's thumping pretty smart. He's got speed, still has that speed. And what I'm seeing right now, that's what I remember in Tampa Bay when I was in New Orleans. That was the guy. He was a headache. Let that sink in for a second. Dan Campbell is essentially saying the Lions might have found a version of Devin White that opposing offenses used to fear. And this development could not come at a better time. Because let's be honest, the Lions cannot responsibly hand the full-time starting linebacker job to Malcolm Rodriguez, a talented but unproven player who has never logged a heavy regular season snap count. Rodriguez is currently working his way back from an ankle injury that popped up during camp, and while he's edging closer to a return after putting in real work with the training staff, the truth is this defense needs a second reliable option at that spot. Maybe even a guy who pushes Rodriguez to be better. And look, everybody in Detroit loves Malcolm Rodriguez. We've been rooting for that guy since day one. But if we're being honest with ourselves, he's the type of player who thrives when someone is breathing down his neck for the job. Competition brings out the best in him. Devin White showing up and looking like a legitimate difference maker might be exactly the spark this linebacker room needed. Now let's talk about a receiver room that Dan Campbell says is unlike anything he's had in Detroit. This wasn't a throwaway compliment either. This was a full-blown, unprompted declaration from the head coach himself. This is the best receiver room we've had since I've been here in camp, top to bottom, Campbell said. I mean, these guys are gifted. It's a really good crew, man, and they're all pretty tough. They're a little bit different the way they're built. And every one of those guys has flashed on one day or another and has done something pretty darn good. That's not a small statement. That's the head coach of an NFL franchise telling you, on the record, that his receiver depth chart is stacked from top to bottom heading into a season where the Lions are chasing a championship. And here's where things get juicy. Campbell actually put a name on it. He specifically called out a player named Tay Martin. Now, if you're scratching your head, wondering who that is, don't worry. Most casual fans are right there with you. Tay Martin arrives in Detroit after a strong season in the UFL playing for the Columbus Aviators. Quick trivia moment for you. Drop it in the comments if you already knew that nickname before I said it. Bragging rights only, no actual prize, just pure Lions fan pride. Martin stands 6'1", right around 185 pounds, and last season he hauled in 42 catches for 483 yards and a couple of touchdowns in that developmental league. According to Campbell, Tay Martin, man, makes plays every day. And he's intriguing on offense, but he makes special teams plays every day. And that's important to us. When Thursday's preseason game rolls around, Martin is a name you want to keep your eyes locked onto. Then there's Nick Whiteside, who Campbell affectionately keeps calling by his nickname, Ironsides. And if you know anything about NFL locker room culture, that's a very good sign. When a head coach starts using your nickname consistently, it usually means you've earned a little extra respect in that building. Whiteside has reportedly told teammates and coaches that is not intimidated by anybody lining up across from him, whether it's Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, or tight end Sam Laporta. He shows up, he competes, and according to Campbell, he simply doesn't care who's in front of him. That's the exact mentality this coaching staff wants from every single player on the roster. Rounding out the good news column, safety Avant Maddox is officially back at practice, and Campbell seemed genuinely thrilled about what that means for the secondary. It sounds like Maddox could be in line to start the season as the primary safety next to Chuck Clark, and Campbell praised how much growth Maddox has shown in his time with the Lions, specifically pointing out the chemistry and communication between him and Clark. That's a pretty encouraging sign for a secondary that has dealt with more than its fair share of turnover this offseason. There's more positive momentum on the injury recovery front too. Rookie edge rusher Derek Moore is inching closer to a return after putting in extensive work with the training staff. He's currently around day 8 of what Campbell had originally pegged as a 7 to 10 day recovery window. Malcolm Rodriguez also logged heavy work with trainers and appears to be closing in on a return from that ankle issue. And in maybe the most eyebrow-raising update of the day, defensive lineman Sayaki Ika was back out on the practice field wearing a helmet, working alongside the training staff, even though his eye is reportedly still bloodshot from a prior injury. Nobody's entirely sure yet when the coaching staff will feel comfortable clearing him for full contact, but seeing him back out there, visor firmly attached, as it absolutely should be, is a strong signal that his return is getting closer by the day. Alright, Detroit Scope family, we've soaked up all the sunshine we can for one video. Now it's time to wade into the murkier waters, because unfortunately, this camp update wouldn't be complete without some legitimate bad news. Let's start with running back Isaiah Pacheco, who is now dealing with a knee injury. The silver lining here is that early word points to a minor MCL sprain rather than anything involving the PCL, which would be a far scarier diagnosis. Current expectations have Pacheco on track to be ready for Week 1, so this shouldn't be a long-term disaster. But context matters here, and this injury stings a little more than it might in a vacuum. As it stands, he should be fine for kickoff, but this is exactly the durability concern that has followed Pacheco for a chunk of his career. Can he stay on the field for a full 16-plus game slate? That remains the lingering question. And with this setback, the Lions now have their RB2 sidelined for the remainder of the preseason, meaning he won't get valuable representatives with a retooled offensive line that's already missing veteran presence up front. On top of that, the team's RB3 situation remains murky, with no clear return timeline in sight. All of this sets up preseason game number 1 as a genuinely fascinating watch. Who steps up in the backfield when the top names are banged up? Is there a surprise name that pops off the tape and forces the coaching staff to take notice? Also still sidelined is center Juice Scruggs, who's dealing with a groin issue described as a soft tissue injury. Campbell initially said Scruggs would be out a few days, but that update is now a couple of days old with no clear end in sight, which naturally raises some questions about the actual severity. As every training camp veteran will tell you, the hope is always that injuries hit early in camp rather than lingering into the season. So this is one to monitor closely. And finally, we've got to address the situation with safety Kirby Joseph, who Campbell confirmed is currently dealing with a personal matter that's keeping him away from the team. The head coach kept specifics private, which is completely understandable and honestly the right move. But he did offer some reassurance on the football side of things, noting that Joseph's rehab is coming along nicely. Campbell compared his recovery timeline to how the team handled fellow defensive back Brian Branch's return, essentially confirming that Detroit plans to take things slow and steady with both players rather than rushing them back into live representatives. That's been the Lions' MO for years now when it comes to managing player health, and it's part of why this coaching staff has built so much trust within the locker room. In the meantime, expect Avant Maddox and Chuck Clark to hold down the safety spots. Yes, it's technically a downgrade from a fully healthy Joseph Branch tandem, but these are two savvy, dependable veterans who communicate well and should be able to hold the fort until the full unit is back and rolling. So there you have it, Detroit Scope family, a camp update packed with genuine highs and some real lows. Devin White is trending toward being the steal of the offseason. The receiver room might be the deepest Dan Campbell has ever coached, but the running back room is banged up, the offensive line is dealing with shuffling, and there are a couple of situations at safety and center that bear close watching heading into that first preseason kickoff. If this breakdown helped you get caught up on everything happening in Allen Park, do us a massive favor and smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Drop a comment letting us know which storyline has you most excited, whether it's Devin White's resurgence, Tame Martin's emergence, or the running back shuffle heading into week 1. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We are on the hunt to hit our first 1,000 subscribers here on Detroit Scope, and every single subscription gets us that much closer. Thank you for riding with us today. We'll see you in the next one.